We're talking to Dr. SSimpson from Trevecca Nazarene University, and we're dealing with the graduate education program that she is in charge of at Trevecca Nazarene University. And of course, Dr. Simpson, before we move from the graduate education program at Trevecca, let's have you to give us some additional information relative to some of the other programs that are involved in the graduate education program at Trevecca. We understand that there are several others outside of the one that you're in charge of, and so let's talk about that for the next few minutes.
I've talked a lot, Dr. Haney, about my program, the Masters of Arts in Teaching program.
Because that's the most important program that we want to deal with.
That's the one I'm personally dealing with because it's preparing teachers.
Good.
But what Trevecca has done historically and done extremely well is that we have an ed leadership program too, and we prepare principals. It has been very successful. We have some of our graduates are superintendents of schools in some of the counties, but we have an excellent program designed for those students who wish to come back and get a Master's of Education in Educational Leadership. And that program in particular is, it has been, it's well known throughout the state. We also are going to start an ELL program, an English Language Learner program, and the need is there because of the diversity in our schools now. So what Trevecca is trying to do is that when we see a need, we're trying to address it. And what we want to do is prepare the best educators that we can, both administrators and teachers. And so our program is set up to meet those needs. And for those people for teachers who are presently teaching and would like to go to that higher level, and I've been a teacher and a principal, and I think being a principal is one of the best things, most challenging, but one of the best things that you can do in life. And you still are doing something for the kids, and you're working with teachers and trying to get them to make a better contribution to their children. So Trevecca has several programs that are ed leadership, the ELL program. We're also starting an instructional technology program. We have MLIS for for people who wish to go and be librarians. So those programs are very successful. And again, I think one of the things about Trevecca that makes us, I guess we're small, but it's that wanting to make sure that our students feel that they are the most important thing to us. And so we work with that to make sure that whatever needs they have, we try to address and make them feel comfortable, and then provide them with one of the strongest educational settings in the state.
You know, Dr. Simpson, before we end the show for today, I think that quite a bit has been said about some of the national legislation dealing with education. And one of the, I think we had a guest not long ago to talk about the evolution in terms of where we are now in terms of what the federal government is doing in education. And we know that now we're dealing with a program that is called No Child Left Behind. And there's been quite a bit of information relative to such programs, and I think that it has, as a matter of fact, we had some persons in here not long ago who said that that program was drawing money from regular education and et cetera. So let's, from your experience, let's have you to give us some information in reference to the No Child Left Behind legislation and how you see that as working as part of your program, or either whether or not it can work into your program.
I think if you are preparing teachers in this day and time, there is no way that you cannot look at and consider No Child Left Behind. It is one of the most significant pieces of legislation that has been passed to impact education. I tell my students when we start talking about No Child Left Behind, I said, I always want you to remember one thing before we do anything else. The intent of that law was honorable. All children, regardless of what their conditions, it doesn't matter. They deserve a quality education. So the intent is honorable. However, there's some issues that I think that will have to be addressed if No Child Left Behind is going to be totally effective and reach the goals, those lofty goals. The first thing you have to look at, it is not totally funded to the level that it should be. And as a result, some of the states are questioning this. How can we put in all of these mandates if the funding is not there. So I think when you look at No Child Left Behind, when our people in Washington look at it and they're saying, this is what I want you to do, then they have to realize they have to provide the appropriate funds. The other thing is, and this is just my personal opinion, is that you can't put schools in any kind of cookie cutter type system. It's not a one size fits all. And when you talk about testing, students should be accountable. Teachers ought to be accountable. So there's nothing wrong with that. But this is high stakes. And we put so much on those tests. That test is not representing everything we need to know about that child. He has to pass the test. But accountability there should be, it should be more, I think it should be more global in a sense that you're just not zeroing in on one particular thing. So when you look at it, I think there are things that need to be addressed, and when the states, the systems raise issues, I think that it has to be addressed in Washington, because if they're going to be doing things and make this law what it ought to be and what it was intended to be, the first thing they got to do is say, we're going to fund it. The second thing we're going to do is say some of these restrictions just don't really, they're not doing what they're supposed to do. There are several things that a school that, you know, benchmarks, and if you miss one, then your school may be on focus or on a high priority list. And I think we need to look at that. You miss one thing, if there are not enough kids there, or if one particular subgroup doesn't make it, then the whole school, that does not represent what a school is doing. So as a result, some of our excellent schools are finding themselves on lists because they missed one subgroup.
You know, in reference to this program, and I'm glad that you mentioned this fact of the resources. Now, are we saying, or can we possibly say that the people in Washington, D.C. are not paying any attention to the arguments that we're making in terms of just the financial resources that are necessary in order to carry this program into being? Are they simply ignoring that, or what? I mean, what's the attitude in reference to that?
I wouldn't say they're ignoring it, because some of the issues that have been raised about No Child Left Behind, they have been addressed. I think in this day and time, with the funds being so limited, it's a matter of prioritizing. For where I sit, nothing is more important than education. But for our Congress people in Washington, then we're looking at different things. And so they have this X amount of dollars and they're trying to allocate. And my thing is that if you're going to pass a law, you pass it with the intent of funding it. And so this is where my concern goes, that I know there are other priorities, but I also know that these children are our future, and either we educate them now or we pay for it later. So if you're going to pass these laws, then you need to look at it. Right now, we're going through budget cuts. We're looking at the budget for all the schools around here. And I know that the politicians are trying to do what's best for everybody. And so I think the people, they're going to have to listen in Washington, because the states are rising up and saying, we want to do this, we want to do what's right, but you got to look at what resources are you giving us?
Now, is it true that the National Education Association either threatened a suit against the federal government for not to? Is that true?
I was reading something about that, and I think there is some truth in that. And I think, again, it goes back to the funding issue and some of the requirements. Some of the requirements in No Child Left Behind need to just be revisited. And I think what I'm seeing is that it's where the Department of Education has no choice. They have to know. And again, the intent is honorable. All the children deserve a quality education, but just the way we're getting there. And then I think that the people in Washington need to listen to educators. This is what we do. We have the background. We have some suggestions, some recommendations. Listen to us, and we are not, it's where we're looking for what's best for the child. I used to tell my teachers when I was at Tom Joy, if you want something from me, you talk about the children. What do the children need? And I think for our politicians, look at our children. These are the people that are going to be leading our world.
Very good.
And so we need to educate.
And of course, Dr. Simpson, over the last 30 seconds that we have here, let me thank you for bringing that excellent information, not only about No Child Left Behind, but about Trevecca and your own personal experiences. And I'm sure that some of the information that you gave us in reference to bringing people into the education process will have some effect. And let me encourage our audience to tune in again next week for another informative edition of Comments. Thank you and good morning.